This video is a simple tutorial on how to paint a prickly pear cactus in watercolors. To be specific, a violet version of prickly pear. Hi, I am Run and welcome to my channel Run My Art. So hello there and welcome back to another series of my watercolor painting tutorials. And today I'm going to paint a Puncha prickly pear, which is of violet version, known as a Puncha gosseliniana. I hope I got it right. So why this particular version is because that purple hint or pinkish magenta hint in those light green cactus pads caught my attention. So I've never seen this cactus in my real life, and I think it's native to South America. So once again I will be demonstrating this painting on my favorite watercolor paper, which is Canson cold press watercolor paper of 300 grams per square meter, and it's half of A4 size, which is equivalent to A5. So to kickstart, I am showing you the two main colors that I'll be using for this cactus painting, which is Viridian Green or Emerald, as well as Schminke Makeup Violet. And if you don't have a Viridian Green or Emerald Green, you can mix your own Viridian hue by mixing some lemon yellow to a darker shade of blue, like as in dark cobalt blue or ultramarine blue, and the result is very much close to the Viridian, even though not the exact color. You can also use a Prussian green or phthalo green with a hint of the blue shades. And I also realized that the brilliant green from Schminke Academy series works as well. So just mix these colors to arrive at something similar to the Viridian color. So first of all, I am going to kickstart painting the shape of the cactus by making a very watery consistency of the Viridian green. And with my round brush size 8, I'm just casually painting the pads of the cactus. And I am painting this on a dry surface. In other words, this is wet on dry technique. And you may also use a bigger round brush or a mop brush to help you to paint these large surfaces. I just thought I'll just fiddle with my smaller size round brush. And just quickly dropping in some of those other green shades that I made earlier to create some color variations. You can do the same. Now I decided to make another cacti next to this major cacti by adding in some lemon yellow and more of the sapphire blue to create a difference in the color combinations. Next, I'm just mixing in some lemon yellow to create some impression of the flower stems or fruits on the crown of the cactus pads. You can straightaway drop in your green color of choice if you don't wish to drop in this lemon yellow. I just thought of maintaining some brighter look of the flowers on the cactus pads. So since the Viridian hue is actually a granulating color, I realized that once the painting is dry, there are some granulating effects, as in marking or patterns on the paper surface, and it creates a cool effect. So once the first layer of painting is completely dry, I'm going to move to the next step. And this time it's going to be wet on wet technique. So I am pre-wetting the first pad on the left of this cactus with clean water, and quickly dropping in the Schminke Makeup Violet using my mop brush. And this particular mop brush has a sharp tip, so it's much easier for me to draw the outline of the cactus. So once done with the outline, quickly use a clean damp brush to move those pigment onto the wet areas. So basically you're moving all those pigment that were on the corners or outline of the cactus pad and painting them towards the inner part of the pads. And with the same mop brush, I am just dropping in some dots. You can skip this and do it once the painting is dry, it's no big deal. So moving on, I am going to repeat the same process onto the other pad of the cactus as well. So just pre-wet the paper surface or painting surface with a clean damp brush. And you don't want it to be too soaked wet as well, because too much water will make it difficult for you to have your brush control. And then quickly dropping in those violet once again at the corners or outline of the cactus pad. So basically the violet has a very minimal impact on the painting, because I am just painting them on the outline and dragging them using a clean damp brush towards the middle part of the pad. So by using this technique, you actually maintain the original color of the cactus, which is the viridian green, with some shimmer or shine of the purple. So this technique is basically very much close to the glazing method, where you glaze a new color on top of the original color of your dry painting. However, I did it by just pre-wetting it with clean water and then keeping it minimal with the glaze by just applying the paint onto the corners or outline of the painting and then lightly dragging them onto the wet surface. So I hope this angle of my video or screen could help you with the visualization process with what I'm doing with the technique that I explained earlier, because on an aerial view or top view you might have very minimal visualization. And once again applying some dots while the painting surface is still damp. So moving forward, I am mixing another shade of green, which is permanent green with a hint of Indian yellow for the flowers on the crown of the cactus. So basically this is representing the stem that holds the flower on the cactus pad. You can use a smaller brush, as in a rigger brush, to help you paint the stems. I am just using the same round brush size 8. So done with the stem painting, I am quickly using the lemon yellow paint to just create some impression of petals onto the stems. Just softening the bottom of the stems using a clean damp brush. Next, I am going to make the second layer of painting for the smaller cactus by repeating all those techniques that I used for the first cactus painting. Kickstarting by pre-wetting the surface of the smaller cactus with clean damp brush and then dropping in those violet. As I said, this is basically a repeat process of whatever I did earlier for the larger cactus. And with a clean damp brush, I'm just moving those pigments or painting them towards the other parts of the cactus pad. Moving on, the same darker green shade that I used earlier for the first cactus to paint the stem of the flowers. Use a smaller tip brush to paint these narrow or small areas. And now painting the petals with the citron yellow or lemon yellow. And now I am using a damp brush to give it some washes to create a soft look. Next, I am going to create some highlights on the cactus pads by lifting out some pigment using this small tip brush. And using this damp brush, I am just lifting out some pigment from the dark dots or violet colored dots that I made earlier. So notice as I rub the bristle of the brush gently onto the colored areas, I can lift a little bit of pigment which creates a highlight, as in a light colored dot. So as I remove the pigment, I quickly dab the bristle of the brush onto a paper towel to quickly absorb those paints, and then repeating the process. And please take note, your brush is supposed to be damp and not dry. So every time you feel your brush bristle is dry, just dip them into the water and squeeze out excess water before you start using them. This is important because a very soaked or wet brush would not be able to lift out pigments. Instead, it will create marks on your remaining painting. And a very dry brush could actually scrape off the paper surface and cause damages to your painting. Alright, moving on, I'm mixing another shade of purple with more carmine or red, creating a dark magenta like shade. I'm painting this shade using my mop brush, the one with the sharp tip, to paint those areole or bumps onto the stems as well as the cactus pet. So basically, if you understand the anatomy of a cactus, the areole or the bumps is the part where the spikes would grow. So just casually drop in those dots, creating the impression of these bumps, especially onto the corners, because from a side view, definitely don't see a very smooth looking cactus pad. Instead, you will definitely notice those bumps where the spikes will grow. So just drop in using the tip of your brush. I would say a rigger brush would do the trick for you. So keep applying this impression onto the entire part of the cactus body or pad. Not forgetting onto the stem of the flower or fruit of the cactus as well. So repeat the same process onto the second cactus as well. Once again, using my small damp brush, I am reactivating those dots that I applied earlier. By reactivating those pigments, you get to soften the look of those dots so that it doesn't appear too sharp and looks more natural for the bare eyes. Now I am extending the technique towards the bumps on the corners of the cactus pad. As you reactivate those bump areas, you can notice slightly the purple or violet shade bleeding onto the pad of the cactus. So this creates a nice cool effect. As I mentioned earlier, the cactus looks more natural. Just showing you a close-up of all the various effects you can achieve in one painting using all those techniques that I demonstrated earlier in this video. Now some touch up for the flowers of the cactus, I am using an orange tone. You can achieve this tone by mixing some brilliant red or cadmium red with the lemon yellow, and just dropping in lightly to some parts of the flower petal, and then giving it some light washes with a clean damp brush. So for finer details, I am going to paint the spikes or thorns of the cactus, and I'm using the same magenta mix that I made earlier, and I'm using my script brush size 1 to paint those spikes. So just randomly paint those spikes in various directions so that it looks more natural, and you don't have to soak your paint brush with too much of paint, because this is a very light fine detail, so just a light consistency of the paint would do the trick. And to complete this cactus painting, I've decided to paint some random rocks. Some dry grasses on the foreground in between the rocks to complete this look. Ta-da! The painting is complete. So basically this is a very simple looking cactus with some exciting colors. And since it's not a very realistic painting, I've kept my painting very minimalistic. Sometimes less is more, don't you agree? So if you have become a fan of my work, then don't forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel. Thank you for your support. See you again. Bye.